Ladies and gentlemen, it's your friend Mike Brady from Oceanliner Designs. And today we're on board the SS United States. Kind of, sort of. This is Ship Explorer. It's the virtual experience that my team and I have been working on. We've shown you this before, but today we're going to show you something new because we have made some interiors. We've got the bridge over here, that's where we're going to start, and then we're going to go downstairs into some of the first class spaces on board. Before we do that though, I just wanted to ask you real quick, does anybody know what this is? It's a collection of brooms. If you know what that's about, let me know down in the comments. While we're here, I feel like we need to do the customary sounding of the ship's horn. Making sure it still works. Excellent. Can you tell I like doing that? So here we are at the entrance to the bridge. We'll go inside and have a look. The reason this is quite an interesting space is that not too long before the United States was in service, 40 years earlier, 50 years, you know, ships' bridges were very, very simple things. They were often open to the elements. In fact, even in World War II, a lot of ships, like, you know, British cruisers and destroyers and things like that, they would go to sea with totally open top, you know, bridges. That's a very British thing, I don't know why. And yet here, not too long later, you know, there's a fully enclosed, it would be enclosed, you shut these doors, space, and it is air conditioned, which on a transatlantic liner doesn't sound like you would really use it all that often. But when the bridge crew are on duty, say waiting off quarantine in New York for an hour or two in the middle of summer, it would have been very much appreciated, I'm sure. Of course, we've got the classic engine order telegraphs. We're going full ahead, which is great, making our top speed. The United States' top speed is still a matter of debate. Some say she got up to 41, 42, 43 knots. Who knows? Some of the data around the ship is actually still somewhat classified. She probably got up in the realms of 38 to 41 knots, but she could not, you know, I mean, that's not a sustainable speed for a ship of this size for any particularly significant amount of time. Another thing that you can notice just off the bat here are these windows. They've all got wipers. They're not automatic. They are manual wipers. You have to do the wiping yourself. You see the little handles down here. And then over here you had what is essentially, it's like a storm porthole. It's got its own little electric motor. And if it was raining really heavily, you could turn the electric motor on and it would spin that cutout. And that would dispel any like water buildup on the porthole, so you could actually get a clear view outside while the ship was going along. But the reason I love this ship is that the bridge is like a really great mixture of old and new. You've got all these, you know, classic engine order telegraphs that could have looked at home on the Titanic or, you know, something like that. And yet over here we have radar arrays and, you know, electronics. It's so exciting. So we've got indicator panel boards and things. The ship was designed by the team led by William Francis Gibbs, and we've talked about him a lot on the channel before. Gibbs was a safety fanatic, and famously, the United States was built to be as fireproof as possible, but her compartmentalization, all this stuff, she was really designed to survive any kind of serious event at sea. So he made sure that, you know, the crew had basically every bit of information they could want to have at their disposal was right at hand. Smoke detection, flame detection, and heat detection panels, watertight door, compartment indicator panels, all that kind of stuff. It's all there. And there was even a damage control room dedicated, I think it was just behind here, behind one of these doors, dedicated specifically to the safety of the ship and overseeing evacuation, fire control, that kind of stuff. Very, very impressive. You can see the ship's call sign up here, the radio call sign KJEH, and a series of just kind of like indicators and things. Engine RPMs for a stern and a head movement. Obviously, we're moving ahead. There are 4 of these, one for each propeller, each set of turbines that makes the ship go, and a whole bunch of other interesting doohickeys, which we'll go into more detail in another video someday. But the main point of this is to go and check out some of the pretty interiors. I did, however, just want to set it to nighttime real quick. So when we were researching the United States' interiors for Ship Explorer, we actually found that a lot of the indicator panels and things were backlit by red light to help prevent, getting your night vision ruined by bright lights, like the one that's shining in my face just over here. So, traditionally on a ship, typically lights forward of the forecastle deck are extinguished. They're cut out so the crew have perfect night vision. We've left these lights on so you can actually see what you're doing when you're walking around. We did that on purpose. But the night vision is very, very important. So as you can see, use red light, your night vision is not going to get heavily impacted, and we can still read our engine order telegraphs without becoming blind when we want to go out and look outside and see what's going on. But yeah, this bridge would have been significantly more dark, and lamps and things forward of this space would have all been turned off at night time. But let's make it a nice sunny day again and go and check out some of the first class spaces we've put in. Let's go for a walk. Just come down the stairs here, past the officers' promenade, and we'll go down into the first class enclosed promenade just up ahead. The way you could get down into it from up here was through these little staircase covers, which in traditional ship parlance, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. In traditional ship parlance, these little ladder covers are called boobies. Make of that what you will. Do not clip that as a soundbite, by the way. Discord server, I'm talking to you. So, we come down here and we get to the... They're going to take that as a challenge, aren't they? They're going to do it. We get to the main lobby. We can actually compare some of these spaces with original photos that we've got scattered around. So this is actually taken inside of here, inside the lobby. We'll get in there in a minute, but this is what you can expect to see. Pretty sparse interiors, but we'll talk about that. Here's our nice, beautiful promenade. But here is our entrance inside the lobby. Let's do it. So here we are in the main foyer. And it's a pretty unique space. So let's talk about mid-century design for a minute, because this is going to be prevalent all throughout our tour of the first class spaces here. When people think about ocean liners, they think about Titanic, wood paneling, carvings, floral motifs, stenciling, all this beautiful ornate stuff. Sometimes it can get a little bit too far. I mean, we've looked at the German ocean liners of the early 1900s. Some of the British ones as well are horrendous, for want of a better term. They're just really not nice, right? It's like a little Liberace-esque. But the United States, existed in a time where they were trying to bring that down. They're trying to bring it back and create a new kind of visual language, new visual identity. Mid-century modern. And, the United States was like the floating embodiment of this. So this isn't Art Deco, this is mid-century modern. It's very polarizing. Some people don't like it. I love it. It's so cool. I'm sorry. This is so Mad Men, and look, this would have made a lot more sense once you saw people strolling through with their slicked hair, the kind of like Don Draper looking ad execs with their cigarettes. Smoking isn't cool though, in their suits with skinny ties, and the women with their colorful dresses. And it would have made a lot more sense than when you just look at like empty photographs of the ship and think in black and white and think, oh, that doesn't look that comfortable. It doesn't look that warm. I don't know. It looks pretty good to me. Here's the main forward first class staircase. We've got the decks and their names conveniently written on the floors, and the linoleum or some kind of sort of like rubbery mixture here. And just in case you forgot, you're on an American line ship. You Americans. Pretty simple space. I do love the dark blue, kind of like midnight blue flooring though. It's quite cool. Here we have the elevator bank here that will go up. You can see that the deck names are conveniently laid out here. It's not like Titanic or Lusitania or any of those other ships where you have boat deck, A deck, B deck, C deck, D deck. You've got A deck, main deck, the upper deck, promenade deck, so on and so forth. So the acronyms there might be a little bit confusing at first glance, but I'm sure after a few days on board, you'd sort of get used to it. I kind of like it. Personally, I think it's pretty good. But of course, the main event, there's the bathrooms. The main event is waiting for us just in here. So when we decided on which, I just climbed that chair. Whoops, that was poor etiquette on entering the ballroom. When we decided on what rooms to make for the United States and Ship Explorer, we wanted to make a room that would give you the real character of the ship, and we thought the ballroom was a really, really good choice for that. I love it. this is quite polarizing, this space, for some people. You know, there wasn't a lot of plush, you know, flammable furniture, wooden paneling and things like that. And the reason for that, famously, there was little to no wood used on the United States, aside from like chopping boards and the piano and things like that. There had been a whole series of very serious ship fires. Now, everyone immediately thinks, when we talk about ship fires, we think of like the Morro Castle in the 30s. That had a huge impact on the ship's designer and the design team in United States lines. But then, you know, like half of French lines ships burned. You know, Normandy went up. Obviously, that was a slightly different case with Normandy. Her fire extinguishing capabilities were severely restricted. But there are quite a few others through the 30s, 40s, and into the 50s. And beyond. So the Yarmouth Castle and the Laconia in the 60s immediately come to mind. Let's talk about Laconia for a minute. Her interiors, the ships from the late 20s, 1929, early 30s, Laconia's interiors were beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, just jammed full of like highly, highly varnished wood. As soon as a fire took hold, the varnish acted as the accelerant. The timber paneling, which was solid oak and all these different, you know, they weren't veneers, like they were solid timber, was just a raging inferno. And that fuel basically made it impossible really to put out. Ship fires are quite unusual. They're not like simple structural or house fires. It's something closer to an apartment or like skyscraper fire where you've got all this open space, like promenades and things, ventilation, portholes, windows. Once the glass goes on those windows, the oxygen that can be drawn in, the sheer amount of draft that can be pulled in, basically creates a sustained, self-fulfilling prophecy, like a perpetual cycle where there's more fuel, there's more varnishing, there's more timber, there's more oxygen being pulled in. Ship fires are really, really, really difficult to put out. William Francis Gibbs and his team were having none of that. Now, there had been a few other pioneering figures at the time looking at, you know, well, maybe it's not a great idea to pack our ships full of solid timber paneling and varnish, right? So Gibbs certainly wasn't alone in this, but his team took it to the nth degree. And you end up with spaces like this, which, you know, back then, they didn't have the kind of complex finishing and, you know, surface materials and things that we have today on cruise ships. You'll see, even though cruise ships today don't use wood paneling like they used to back in the day, they use fireproof veneers and things like that, or low flammability veneers. You can see a ton more finishings and textures and things like that. It's purely because we've had 50, 60 plus years to figure out how we can make more interesting looking spaces and different non-flammable finishes and surfaces and things like that. The United States' design team were kind of a little bit on the back foot because they had aluminium or aluminum, if you're in the United States, glass, metal, synthetics, a few synthetics, not many, and asbestos. Oh boy, they love their asbestos. The United States was full of the stuff, the miracle material of the time. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So they were somewhat limited. They did the best with what they had at the time. So we have to look at the United States with a little bit of that context in mind. She wasn't going toe to toe with the Normandy and the Queen Mary on sumptuous palatial luxury. She was way faster. She was plenty comfortable enough. And honestly, for the time, she was really cool because Art Deco by the 50s, a little bit passé, right? 25 years has passed. So at least 25, 30 years. So mid-century modern is the aim of the game. It's cool, it's slick, you know, not all things stand up over decades, but anyway. I love these tables. They remind me of the ship's propellers, no? Or they look like kind of like a wheel that you might find down in the engine room. Really cool. So a little industrial, a little mechanical. One thing that we haven't simulated in this room, which we might have to, is a thick smoke haze, because of course back then everybody smoked. I'm sure some of the wise and elder viewers of the channel remember a time when everybody smoked inside every club and bar and restaurant, and even on aeroplanes. And whoever thought smoking on an aeroplane was a good idea should have been thrown out of one. But anyway, immediately apparent are these absolutely magnificent glass panels. So these depict various ocean scenes. The texture work here was done by our extremely talented young texture artist, Sylvie. And she has done her best to work from photographs and recreate some of these. Seeing it in color and getting to walk around this space is, as always, as with things like Titanic, Honor and Glory, really exciting because it does give you a sense of the kind of the vibe. I'm sure this space at nighttime with the, tables and chairs cleared from the dance floor and couples kind of up there dancing cheek to cheek and a band over here playing, whatever hits of the day, put your head on my shoulder, that kind of stuff. And this would have been a really fun space to be, but there is actually more to see yet. There's not just this space. There's a dome up here. It's not particularly decorated or decorative, obviously. On ocean liners from decades past, that probably would have had some kind of fresco or painting or something. They create a kind of funny acoustic effect. So this space has just been kind of added to the ceiling height, basically, to make it feel roomier than it actually is, right? The height on this deck is probably 10 to 12 feet. So getting that extra couple of feet, 13, 14, 15 feet, is really great. Gives you an extra bit of space when you're on the dance floor. It doesn't make it feel as crowded, but it creates an echo. And if you go on any older ships like the Rotterdam in particular, I'm thinking of the Rotterdam, there are some rooms like this where they have the ceiling cut out. It creates a couple of funny effects. When it's loud, standing in here is a raucous experience. It's extremely loud. When it's quiet, if somebody sitting over there whispers something to their friend, chances are, if you're sitting over here, you'll be able to hear it because the sound bounces off the ceiling and kind of lobs over like an artillery shell and gets you in the ear. So, funny. Thankfully, our rendition of the lounge is nice and peaceful and quiet. Let's go for a little stroll. We'll walk back over here. I do love that you can constantly see outside into the promenade deck and see the ocean going past thanks to these nice big windows that we have. It's very, very cool. Of course, nowadays, they wouldn't waste prime real estate with a promenade like that. This room would probably extend all the way out to the sides, so we would have uninterrupted ocean views, but I kind of like it like this. Back here, we have the bar. This is probably where you would find me sipping something, although you can see that, in fact, yes, there is some Mike's brandy. Got my own promotional brandy here. That was the dev team. I believe that was Jordan specifically. Thank you, Jordan. Again, you get little artistic touches like this quite interesting sort of space age clock. This was the height of the nuclear age, space race. Everything has this sort of futurist, sort of chromed, exciting finish to it. It just reminds me of what was the watch that Elvis used to wear? I'll put a picture up on it. It was electric and it was triangular shaped. Really cool watch for the time, right? Everyone was obsessed with this kind of aesthetic back then. It's a little bit Fallout, right? I love it. And of course, America is not long out of prohibition. It's been 15, 20 years. And Americans, they love a drink. Evidence of the perpetual smoking that's going on. Ashtrays everywhere. Cocktails were a big thing back then. So your Manhattans, your old fashions, martinis, everything. This would have been a very loud space because all you would have heard is cocktail shaking going on. I get the feeling, and you can just kind of imagine perching on one of these stools and drinking all in, watching the dance floor from here through these cut glass panels. Pretty cool. The ballroom is an interesting space because it actually branched off into two other little spaces. One of them was a cocktail bar, a dedicated cocktail bar, commonly referred to as the Navajo room, which we haven't yet included. But there was an identical space on the other side of the ship, which was turned instead into a tiny private restaurant. We'll go and have a quick look and I'll show you this because this is a really cool spot. It's just through here in the back. You might be forgiven for missing it. This is the ballroom restaurant. Now, I love this room. Again, super, super simple. It's got these sort of celestial patterns on the walls. Really cool. Again, this really reminds me of the SS Rotterdam. If you get the chance to go on Rotterdam, do it because she's of the same sort of vintage as the United States. So you get spaces like this. This was a private dining room. It's a little bit weird because it's sequestered away, right, from the ballroom. It's a little bit out of public sight. This is where the most affluent, the richest would come and eat, the celebrities and things like that. To get away from the main dining room. People back then, your nouveau riche, your successful businessmen and advertising moguls and things like that, are a little bit more showy. They want to be seen dining. They want to be seen. So they will go down to the main dining saloon, and it's the whole exciting you know, affair. Everyone gets all dressed up and you stroll in and you imagine craning your neck trying to see who's coming in through the front door. The old money and the people who are very used to traveling on ships like this and aren't particularly interested in being seen, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, you know, certain movie stars, would come up here and eat instead. Because you're away from all of that and you're surrounded by, you know, people who are probably at your social status and they're not going to bother each other. You're not going to have to get stuck next to some drunken bore who's seen all your movies and wants to talk to you about them. So here you can mix with your friends. It's a little bit more private. Unlike other ships, this didn't have its own menu. This would actually serve the same fare as the first class dining saloon down below. So it's purely this exists just to get away from like the hoi polloi, right? the riffraff. This is only here if you want to go and escape the noise and the hustle and bustle. So really beautiful little semi-private dining room. It's really cool. Quite quiet, quite reserved. I love it. It's very nice. I would eat here. I love these curved walls. Nowadays on ships, you'll have 10, 15, 20 different dining options, you know, with all different themed menus. Back then on ships, it was a different affair. You know, certain ships like the Olympic class on Titanic brought with them, you know, the Ritz restaurant, a la carte menus, ordering off the menu as opposed to just, you know, eating whatever was made available that day. Another thing that was super popular, you wouldn't get on ships today, is green sea turtle soup. So we talk about this elsewhere on the United States with some of the voice lines. Back then, it was kind of a tradition that you would hop on the ship and you would eat sea turtle. Apparently, one of the United States' chefs was so enamored with the concept of sea turtle soup, he kept live sea turtles for the voyages so he could butcher them and make soup of them. So it was nice and fresh. That obviously isn't a thing anymore, partly because I don't know how many people would want to eat sea turtle, but also largely because of the endangered nature of things like sea turtles. Ooh, a napkin. An unspoilt United States Lines napkin. This one was provided to us by the United States Conservancy. These have got to be super rare, right? Does anyone else collect napkins? I always collect like, napkins and like the little things they put under your drink to stop it from perspiring on the table. Coasters. You can collect little coasters, you know, things like that. Souveniring on ships like this was a really big problem. So they would simply not brand the things they didn't want people taking, like cutlery, and then brand the stuff they didn't care if people took, like napkins, cocktail stirrers and things like that. I love this room. I think this is just so cool and spacious. It reminds me of Mad Men. I can just see it. I love it. People tend to not like this. I think you can enjoy Titanic, you can enjoy Queen Mary, you can enjoy Normandy, you can enjoy United States, all in their own contexts and times. You know, put it this way. You might prefer the plush sofas and the wood paneling and the thick carpet of the Empress of Ireland's music room, for example. But if I were to pluck you out of your seat right now and put you in this room in the middle of a big party with cocktails all around and people up and dancing and having a great time, I'm sure you would have a fine time. I'm sure you would have a great time. Just for context, we've got a little set of plans. Let's sit on this sofa real quick and have a quick look. That's towards the stern of the ship, so that's where tourist class and what have you are. We're a little further from that. We are nearer to here, so you can actually see one part of the ballroom here as it extends along the side of the ship. There's actually quite a large compartment. One thing you immediately notice about the United States, look at all the cars. Look at all the cars they advertise the ship carrying in the bow section and the cargo holds. Did she ever carry that many cars? I don't know. I've seen lots of pictures of them being loaded. I doubt she had that many cars. But again, you know, this is United States Lines saying this is a ship for the new nuclear age. This is a ship for the new nuclear family. You can take your car across the Atlantic. You know, you can, everything about this ship is speed and modernity and chrome and space age, and it's really cool to see that. I'd never noticed that many cars before. That's hilarious. Well, I think I might just sit here and sip a glass of Mike's brandy, which looks suspiciously like a cup of coffee. Ship Explorer is available on Steam. If you want to explore these ships yourself, you can go ahead and do that right now. You can do all kinds of other things. We even just added machine guns. That was fun, but I think we need something a little bigger. Okay, that's better. Go bigger than this. Oh yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Okay. This is all I do all day, in case you were wondering. So go ahead and check Ship Explorer out on Steam and the pinned comment below or in the description to go and do some exploring of your own. If you've enjoyed this, please let me know down in the comments what you think of the space. Do you prefer this kind of mid-century modern, or would you prefer to see something a little more old-fashioned, maybe some Art Deco, maybe some timber, you know? Is that more your thing? Now, if you want me, I'll be sitting here drinking something if I can get a waiter. Waiter! Garçon! As always, until next time, stay safe, stay happy, and I'll see you again.